I never imagined waking up in the wrong billionaire's suite would lead to a life-changing romance. I will never forget that morning. The light squeezed through the heavy drapes, painting the room in a glow of golden chaos. I blinked, my heart hammering as my eyes darted around the sumptuous space. Silk sheets, plush carpets, and a chandelier dripping with crystal. The excess was overwhelming. Whose suite is this? Panic surged like ice through my veins that I sat up, instantly feeling the weight of confusion settle on my chest. Memories from last night crashed into me like waves. The wild party. The laughter. The strangers. And then, a vibrant blue gaze caught me off guard. Harrison, the elusive billionaire, had been the center of attention. But I hadn't meant to end up here. My trembling hands combed through my hair, trying to piece together how I'd crashed into his life or his bed. For that matter. He must have noticed mayhays everywhere, larger than life. The rumors surround him, swirling like whispers in dark corners. They say he thrives on danger, that he has a golden heart wrapped in steel. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of fear and something more intriguing. But that was not the question, was it? It was how, suddenly, the door swung open. My heart skipped. There he stood. Harrison, clad in a tailored suit, eyes like smoldering coals. His expression morphed quickly from shock to amusement. "Well, this is unexpected," he said, a crooked smile teasing his lips. I couldn't breathe. Every fiber of my being screamed that I was in over my head. Before I could respond, he approached, confidence radiating off him in waves. The aroma of expensive cologne filled the air between us. My pulse thudded loudly in my ears. "You really shouldn't sneak into a billionaire's suite without an invitation," he teased, but his voice was laced with something softer. Maybe curiosity? Or was it concern? His presence enveloped me. Thoughts collided in my mind. What would my friends say? Or my family? They'd freak. My life is understated, safe. Then why did I feel like this moment was everything? The tension coiled tighter, like a spring ready to snap. Harrison leaned closer. I could see the slight flecks of silver in his deep gaze. "What were you thinking?" he asked softly. There was a hint of mischief, but I detected genuine intrigue. Why was he looking at me like I mattered? And just when our eyes danced dangerously close, the phone buzzed on his nightstand. The tone shattered the charged silence. He leaned back, a shadow slipping across his face. "Excuse me," he said, annoyance threading his words. He picked up the call, and I took that moment to internally panic. I was in too deep. With every word he spoke on the phone, I sensed this was a world I didn't belong to. Hidden within the folds of his affluent life were secrets and shadows. I listened intently, heart racing, as he mentioned a deal gone wrong. My breath caught. Was something dangerous lurking? The call ended abruptly, and he turned to me, the weight of something profound hanging between us. "We need to talk," he stated, intensity igniting the air. There was urgency in his tone, but beneath everything was a spark. Was this the beginning of something or the end? "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence hung thick in the air as Harrison's words echoed in my mind. "We need to talk." The urgency in his voice snaked through the remnants of my heart, coiling tightly around my panic. Did I want to know what secrets lay buried beneath that enigmatic gaze? He gestured toward a plush sofa. I obeyed, settling into the opulent cushions while my heart pulsated erratically. Harrison took a moment, pacing the room, deep in thought. I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers flexed as he connected black dots in a web of complications only he could see. Whatever had transpired before I stumbled into his life was a storm brewing beneath the surface. Finally, he stopped, turning to me. His brow furrowed, and I felt the weight of his scrutiny. "I appreciate you being here, but it's complicated. There are things you don't know. Like how I ended up in your bed." I countered, trying to lighten the atmosphere with humor, but it fell flat, swallowed by the gravity of the situation. His lips quirked slightly, a flicker of amusement mixed with something darker. "That's one way to put it. Look, I know this is all sudden and chaotic." He paused, looking away as if grappling with his own vulnerabilities. "But there are people decisions I've made that could have consequences. You might not want to be here." My heart sank further. The invitation I had imagined, an adventurous opening into a world I never knew, began to feel like a trap. "You mean your secrets?" I asked, searching for his eyes. "Yes." The word fell from his lips, heavy as lead. "And I don't want to pull you into this. I care about—" He hesitated. "I care about your safety." A pang lanced through me. He cared about my safety. This man, thrust into a world of complexities and dangers, was thinking of me. It was the kind of kindness that washed over the chaos like a brief glimpse of sunlight through storm clouds. "Let me decide what I can handle," I said, my voice embodying newfound resolve. "You don't get to choose for me." There was a power in those words, and I clung to it like a lifeline. Harrison's gaze softened, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of something warm, a glimmer of hope. But then, the stark reality of his world crashed down again. His phone buzzed on the table, a reminder of troubling matters. "I have to deal with this." The weight in his eyes returned, clouding whatever light had briefly sparked. "Go," I urged, my voice gaining strength. "I'll be here." I want to understand that he nodded, seemingly grateful yet conflicted before stepping back into the protective shell of his billionaire life. As he exited the room, I was left in the lavish chaos of his suite, my heart racing with an intoxicating blend of hope and dread. That it felt like hours passed before he returned, but deep down, I knew it had only been a few minutes. He walked back in with furrowed brows, his expression etched with concern. "I can't shake this feeling that I should have done more, that you should have never been wrapped up in this life." "Then let me in. Tell me what's really going on," I replied, a fierce determination churning in my gut, and he hesitated. In the pause, I could feel the air thicken, a tension palpable as he mulled over my request. "There's someone who won't let this go. I made a deal that's stirring up trouble. If they find out you're here." Before he could finish, a loud thud reverberated through the suite, a violent noise that sliced through our conversation. Harrison's body tensed, his alertness evolving into pure instinct as he rushed to the door. The sound came again, this time a series of quick, urgent knocks. My breath caught in my throat as the reality of our circumstances crashed down on us. Something was threatening to break into our fragile moment of connection. My heart raced, fueling the fear that this was all about to unravel. Harrison turned to me, his expression a mixture of fierce determination and unspoken dread. "Stay here," he commanded softly, a glance cast my way that was filled with an uncharacteristic poetic tension. I wanted to reach for him, to pull him back and soothe the chaos looming on the other side of that door, but then I heard a voice on the other side, one I recognized, whispered threats layered with urgency. "Harrison, open up. We need to talk about what you did." In that second, I felt the world tremble around me, and as the door creaked open under the pressure, the reality of everything we had shared collided violently with the promise of danger poised to erupt. My heart raced as the doorway swung open, revealing not just an intruder, but also the truths that would decide the fate of everything I was just beginning to understand. The figure on the other side of the door was nothing like what I had anticipated. I blinked, trying to process the sight of a woman clad in an expensive trench coat, her blonde hair cascading around her shoulders like a shimmering waterfall. She bore an expression that oscillated between worry and steely resolve, her eyes locking on Harrison with an intensity that practically electrified the air between us. "Harrison, we don't have time for games," she urged, ushering her presence deeper into the suite even as Harrison moved to block her path. The tension radiating from his body was palpable, a charged electric field of uncertainty. "It's not a game, Janice," he countered, his voice low but firm. "You shouldn't have come here." As they sparred verbally, the chaos around us faded, the outside world muted like an unwatched television. I was hyper-aware of my own heartbeat, thudding in my ears as I glimpsed flashes of emotion fighting for dominance on Harrison's face. One moment he was protective, the next vulnerably an intricate tapestry of conflict sewn together by unspoken histories. Do you really think you can keep her out of this? Do you think this is over? Janice's voice sliced through the silence, sharp and unyielding. The people involved won't just drop it, not while you still have something they want, something they want. The words resounded deep within me, intertwining with the gripping fear that was building in the pit of my stomach. Swallowing my instinct to retreat, I took a cautious step forward, claiming my space amidst the whirlpool of tension. "Harrison, what are they talking about?" He turned to me, eyes glinting with both anger and pain. "I can't explain it right now. Not with her, not with me here." Janice interjected, her tone dripping with condescension. "You think shutting everyone out is going to keep her safe? You don't know how dangerous this is." I felt pinned by her gaze, a sense of impending doom devouring the hope I was clinging to. If secrets had the capacity to hurt, I was standing in the middle of a battlefield, unarmed. I steadied myself, drawing from the bond one thought I had formed with Harrison, a bond that now felt fragile and wavering. "Please," I whispered, directing my attention to him, the vulnerability in my voice echoing the tumult in my heart. "Just tell me. I can't face this blindly." For a heartbeat, he hesitated, struggling with the weight of the truth I was demanding. Then, with a heavy sigh, he turned his focus to Janice. "If she finds out about the deal, she will be caught in the crossfire. I can't do that to her." A flicker of sympathy crossed her features, surprising me. "And you think keeping her in the dark is the right call? Open your eyes, Harrison. You're trying to protect her, but she deserves the truth more than anything." The collision of their gazes sent a shudder through me, the underlying tension feeling more like a loose wire that could spark any moment. I was caught between the two powerful forces, bewildered but unwilling to relinquish my place in that space. "Enough." I broke in, my voice rising above theirs, fueled by a whirlwind of emotions. "I deserve to hear this. I'm here, and I will be here. You can't just push me aside." Harrison's eyes softened for a moment, the churning emotions evolving into something warmer that ignited fleeting hope. But it was quickly overshadowed by the approaching storms, and the sudden flash of anger melted away into frustration as he turned back to Janice. I said leave, yet instead of retreating, she stepped closer, her expression transforming from confrontation to concern. "Harrison, you can't control this. You can't just." The door slammed shut as another loud thud reverberated through the suite, but this time it was accompanied by an urgent voice that sent ice running through my veins. "Harrison. Open this door." My heart dropped, and a realization washed over me. His was no ordinary confrontation. This was a declaration of war, and I stood on the brink of a battlefield, uncertain of what I would lose or gain. Were those voices looking for solutions, or were they agents of chaos? Threatening to dismantle everything I had begun to clutch? "Stay behind me," Harrison ordered, his focus shifting from Janice to the door. But something in me rebelled at the suggestion. I wouldn't be a bystander while the world outside collided with my fragile reality. I took a step forward, crossing an invisible threshold I hadn't known existed. "I'm not afraid," I declared, even as the tremor in my voice betrayed the anxious flutter in my chest. Harrison's eyes widened fractionally, a mixture of admiration and worry flaring in their depths. I could feel his intense protectiveness surging through the air, but I also felt the sharpness of resilience sparking in my own heart. "Let them in," I said, my resolve strengthening as those footsteps outside echoed louder. "I want to know everything. This is my life too." The door rattled against its frame once more, and just as Harrison opened his mouth to object, the entire suite plunged into silence. Time froze, heart stilled. Whatever was waiting on the other side of that door would change everything, and as the knob turned, I knew there would be no turning back. The door creaked open slowly, and in that vulnerable moment, the atmosphere shifted, as though the air itself held its breath. A silhouette stood framed in the light, tall and imposing, exuding a confidence that sent a chill down my spine. I felt the weight of all the dangerous unknowns rushing in, surrounding me like a thick fog, dimming whatever flicker of hope I had managed to grasp. "Harrison," the voice came from the figure, smooth and authoritative. "I didn't think you'd be hiding out in here with company." The urge to retreat was overwhelming, yet I stood firm next to Harrison, who was now rigid beside me. I recognized the newcomer as Ethan, a known influence in the underbelly of the city, a man whispered about in dark corners for his ruthless business dealings and connections to shady organizations. The mere sight of him made my heart race in equal parts fear and curiosity. "Let's cut the pleasantries," Ethan said, his eyes narrowing, scanning the room until they settled on me. "Who's the girl?" Harrison stepped slightly in front of me, displaying the protectiveness I had noticed earlier. "She's not part of this, Ethan." "You know that," Ethan chuckled, a low, dangerous sound that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Too late for that. This girl, as you put it, is already entangled in the mess you've made. You should have known better than to drag her into your world. What do you want, Ethan?" Harrison's voice was taut, every word articulated through gritted teeth. It was clear this confrontation held deeper rifts than the surface tension displayed. "That I want what was promised to me," Ethan replied, the gleam in his eyes suggesting an amusement that only bordered on sadistic. "And I hope you're not naive enough to think you can back out of the deal." As fear coiled tightly in my chest, I dared to step out from behind Harrison's protective frame. "What deal? What are you talking about?" My voice, stronger than I felt, cut through the charged atmosphere. This time, it was Ethan's turn to regard me with interest. "You truly don't know, do you?" He leaned against the doorframe, an unsettling smirk playing on his lips. "Harrison has managed to keep you in the dark, but my business with him runs deeper than you can imagine." Harrison spun to face me, his eyes wide with urgency, pleading for me to back off. "Don't listen to him. This is not." "Then tell me." I interrupted, heart racing as I demanded the truth, an involuntary rebellion surging through my veins against the secrecy that clung to us like fog. "If you care about me at all, tell me what you're involved in." "I can handle it." The tension crackled again, but this time, there was a glimmer of something between us, a shared resolve that reinforced my stance. Harrison's hesitation was agony, a moment stretching into infinity while our fate hung between us like a fragile thread. "Fine," he finally relented, eyes pained yet resolute. "But you need to understand the risk." He turned back to Ethan, his voice firm. "I won't negotiate while she's here. You can't drag her into this." Ethan pushed himself off the doorframe, stepping closer, inhaling the vulnerability that hung heavy in the air. "What if I told you I could protect her? What if letting go of this burden meant protecting the woman you care for?" The question hung between us like a knife about to fall, and I felt myself wavering as visions spun in my mind of a life lived without chaos, without fear, of a love unburdened by shadows. But I wanted truth, and a deep-rooted sense told me that Ethan's offer came with strings I couldn't see yet. Ethan smiled, a calculated facade that mocked any hope I was clinging to. "You've underestimated me, Harrison. She might be the key to getting everything settled if you're willing to play along." That I opened my mouth to protest, but Harrison shot me a look that silenced my instincts. It was a look that whispered of love and sacrifice, of unspoken vows, but it also bore the weight of the danger lurking just beyond our sanctuary. But even in the silence, my heart danced with the ghost of resilience. "You both need to listen to me," I interjected. Voice steady. "If I'm being dragged into this, I choose how I navigate it. There has to be a way." Harrison's deep gaze met mine, giving me a sliver of reassurance even as desperation seeped back into the room's tension. "You don't fully understand what's at stake." "Then help me understand," I urged, silently willing him to see that the only way out was through the truth. Suddenly, Ethan's expression shifted, the slant of his smile morphing into something darker. "You know, secrets have a funny way of coming to light. They can lead to unexpected alliances or fatal missteps." He glanced between us, picking up on the thread of our connection. "Let's see just how intertwined your fates truly are." With every word he spoke, a weight plummeted through my stomach, a premonition that something unimaginable was about to be unveiled. I sensed the shadows lurking closer, willing to swallow our decisions whole, but I refused to allow fear to dictate my path. Then the lights in the suite flickered ominously, an unsettling shift gripped my heart as I felt the impending sense of an unraveling truth. Harrison wore an expression of horror, a visceral reaction flooding through him that sent fresh waves of panic coursing through me. "What have they done?" he hissed, suddenly striding toward the window, chest rising and falling. The outcome of our confrontation hung tantalizingly close, but as shadows danced across the room, I knew I was standing at the precipice of uncharted territory. "What's happening, Harrison?" I asked softly, reaching for him, though I was both terrified and resolute, but the answer did not come. The sudden blaring of sirens outside filled the air, drowning out our breaths. Eerie and chaotic, they heralded a new reality pressing down upon us, each wail a reminder that our lives would never be the same again. The sirens crescendoed, their wailing a symphony of dread that wound around us, squeezing my chest. Harrison's eyes darted toward the window, a storm brewing behind them that I could scarcely comprehend. Fear gripped every inkling of courage I had mustered, as I squeezed his hand, grounding myself against the chaos that threatened to consume us. "Harrison, please," I implored, desperation seeping into my voice. "What's happening? What did you get yourself into?" His gaze was a tempest of emotions, anger, fear, sorrow, all crashing against the walls of his stoic exterior. "It's too dangerous, you don't understand," he finally snapped, the words laced with panic. They found out." I thought I had more time." "What do you mean, they found out? Who are they?" My mind raced, connecting dots that seemed miles apart. Before he could answer, Ethan's voice sliced through the tension like a blade. "Control yourself, Harrison. The more you expose her to the truth, the more risk you place on her life. Get away from her." Harrison seethed, stepping protectively in front of me. I could see the muscle in his jaw tense, the urgency of the moment crystallizing between us. This storm wasn't just outside, this was personal, and it was about to lay waste to everything we'd fought for. Ethan laughed, an unsettling sound that reverberated off the walls. "Oh, the lengths you go to for her. It's entertaining, really." He crossed his arms over his chest, the very picture of calm in the midst of our mounting chaos. "But you're playing a dangerous game, my friend. And all this bravado is futile if I can't convince you to see the bigger picture." The ground felt unsteady beneath me, my heart racing as I tried to decipher his words. "What do you want from us?" I asked, my voice trembling but alive with an unexpected resolve. "If you think you can just intimidate us, I want your cooperation, sweet girl," he interrupted, the condescension dripping from his tone. "Why do you think I'm here? To extract Harrison from whatever mess he's created. Or perhaps to settle the score on an old debt." The shadow of uncertainty clawed at my insides, and I turned to Harrison. The fierce look on his face crumbled momentarily, replaced with something tender, a fleeting glimpse of vulnerability that burned through the anxiety. "Trust me," he mouthed silently, but trust was becoming increasingly difficult as the sirens wailed and the walls of our sanctuary felt like they were closing in. A sudden ruckus erupted just outside, tires screeching against pavement, and shouting pierced the air. Panic bubbled up within me, the urgency became palpable as I struggled to make sense of the shifting landscape expected to unfold before us. "Ethan, what did you do?" Harrison demanded, rising to collective tension. "You promised me this wouldn't escalate. I only promised you a solution." His smile returned, sinister and infuriating. "But solutions come with consequences, dear boy." I could barely absorb the chaos around us, every instinct burned with a need to flee. Harrison's hand tightened around mine as the room reverberated with the bookmarks of a reality drowning in uncertainty. Suddenly, the suite door burst open, and men in dark suits flooded the room, their expressions etched with intensity, breaths intertwining with that unsettling echo of sirens. My heart dropped as I recognized their authoritative demeanor. They were not regular security, but members from the undercurrents of the city that Harrison had tried to protect me from. The leader stepped forward, his voice deceptively calm. "Ethan, we need to talk." Now that a realization washed over me, a moment of clarity amidst the chaos. I felt fragile, caught in a fragile web of secrets with strands woven deeper than I could comprehend. "Get behind me," Harrison instructed, the authority in his voice grounding me. My breath caught as I complied, but my mind spun with uncertainty. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was a reckoning. A choice had been made long before I had entered this tumultuous picture, one that would forever change the course of our lives. Ethan took a step back, calculating his next move. "You know," he said lightly, as if this confrontation were nothing more than a friendly debate, "it's funny how easily everything can collapse when vulnerabilities are laid bare. Doesn't she deserve to know all of it, Harrison? The truth behind alliances, the consequences of loyalties. She's already a pawn in this game, but left in the dark, how can she ever be part of the strategy?" "Shut up, Ethan." Harrison's voice boomed, anger flickering like kindling in a fire. "You don't get to dictate the terms of her safety," but a question lingered in the charged air, its silence deafening. What if everything I thought I knew about Harrison was a web of lies meant to shield me from truths darker than I was prepared to face? The leader who had stepped forward shifted uncomfortably, gauging the tension between us like a predator sensing fear. "Harrison, it's time to face your choices. You know that it isn't just about you anymore." Footsteps scuffled outside, drawing closer, the air thick with lurking devastation. In that moment, I felt the fragile foundations of hope tremble beneath me. "I'm not going anywhere," I found the courage to assert, my voice echoing amidst the chaos. "If you think you can just take him without consequence, you're sorely mistaken." Silence stretched again, a taut wire ready to snap. The weight of shadows held our fates, interwoven and precarious, yet I refused to back down. Because in the depths of uncertainty, I resolved to stand, and the mere act of defiance sparked a flicker of light, a molten core of courage gleaming against the darkness. Then, just as my heart dared to lift, a revelation struck like lightning, piercing through the tumult. A figure captured my attention, silhouetted in the doorway, quiet yet determined. The moment echoed with the potential of change, a specter promising hope or a harbinger of despair. "Harrison!" The newcomer called, urgency etched into their features. "It's worse than you think. They've come for the files." I had expected chaos, a flurry of faces and voices clamoring in a desperate attempt to sift through the shadows that loomed between us. Instead, there stood a familiar silhouette that cut through the tumult like a familiar tune in a dissonant symphony. My heart seized as the figure stepped closer, revealing features that ignited a storm of memories I thought I had tucked away in the recesses of my mind. "Olivia?" Harrison's voice quivered, crossing the threshold between disbelief and dread. "Is she?" Olivia whispered, her eyes darting nervously between me and the men in suits, conscience racing with the weight of the imminent danger unfolding before us. "I'll explain everything later," Harrison insisted, his frustration pouring out like a dam breaking. "Just know that she's not part of this." Olivia stood still, her expression a mix of confusion and something darker, perhaps regret or betrayal. I could feel the implications thereof gripping tightly around my chest. In that instant, the air thickened with unspoken words, each hiding a piece of the puzzle that could unravel or bind us together. "What did you do, Harrison?" Olivia's voice dropped, edged with accusation as she looked back to him, her breath hitting. "You promised me you would keep her away from this." "I tried." He lashed out, his frustration dissipating only to be rekindled by the weight of Olivia's judgment. "But it's too late now. They've already found us enough." The leader of the dark-suited men shouted, authority slicing into the fray like glass. "You're not here to argue. You're here to comply. Harrison, you put everyone at risk. Your choices have consequences." The implications of his words echoed against the walls, their chilling resonance hardening me from the inside out. I felt the world tilt beneath me, the ground fraught with peril, and a rift rising between the three of us. Harrison, once my stalwart protector, was now at the center of a vicious storm that threatened to pull us all under. "You think this is some kind of game?" Olivia shot back, her voice steady but her eyes aflame. "You think I can just walk away from this? I know what you've done, Harrison. I've seen what you're capable of. Why are you here, Olivia?" Harrison hissed, devilish anger seeping through his words. You shouldn't have come. You don't know what's at stake, maybe I know too much. She retorted, determination mingling with fear. You can't do this alone anymore. You need to trust someone, if not me, then at least her. She motioned toward me. A jolt of feeling gripped me, a fierce danger brushing against bravado and gutting my heart. Did Olivia want to bring me into this? Did she know I was unprepared for the truths her words seemed to hold? No, I breathed, stepping forward, shaking the indecision from my mind. I can handle this. Whatever it is, I want to stand with you, Harrison. Just tell me I'm not the only one in this fight. That a flicker of hope ignited deep within, memories of warmth and laughter we had shared bringing light amid the shadows looming overhead. I could feel his gaze upon me, searching for an answer, desperately probing for reassurance that felt fragile yet necessary, but then Olivia's words lingered like smoke, tainting the air around me. He won't tell you everything, she warned, her face softening momentarily before the storm resumed. There are layers to this. You have to realize that your love is the very thing that puts you both at risk. A tremor coursed through me, weaving itself within the tender threads of our connection. Suddenly, my memories of laughter and love clashed with the dissonance of crashing truths. How much of what I felt was blind trust? How much was real? All right, Harrison's voice broke, pulling me from the chasm of spiraling emotions that threatened to swallow me whole. If you want to stand with me, you need to know what you're up against. But before he could divulge any more, the doorway filled with presence, quiet yet towering tension rippling through the air. The ground beneath us shifted as the figures outside collided with the remnants of our embattled trust. Harrison, there's no time. A voice called with urgency, a whisper that rippled with an undercurrent of fear. We need to go now. They're coming for us, and they already have eyes on. The voice faded as if someone had yanked its tether, a storm brewing violently outside. Just then, a loud crash erupted from the corridor, followed by frantic shouts that set a cascade of dread tumbling into my chest. Run! Harrison commanded, panic threading through his voice, forcing me to act. I instinctively took hold of his hand, the heat and urgency strong as we began to retreat further into the suite. But as we turned to flee, Olivia's desperate gaze locked onto mine, a plea punctuating the turmoil. Find out who he really is. She shouted, desperation dancing in her eyes. You don't know the man you're fighting for. And in that instant, as we dashed away from the incoming chaos, the words twisted around me, an unwanted shadow engulfing the threads of our shared moment. Harrison's fingers intertwined with mine felt warm but fraught with uncertainty. Could I trust him? What secrets lay buried beneath the bravado and resolve? In the pit of my stomach, dread twisted, squeezing tighter as we rushed headlong into the unknown, unaware of the truths lurking in the corners of our escape. Just as we reached the stairs, a scream echoed through the corridor, a shattering of certainty. The taste of fear lingered, heightening my senses as we plunged down, the world slipping from beneath our feet. The stakes had risen, and revelation lingered just around the corner. It promised to unearth the darkness hiding within Harrison's world, or else drown me in the swells of an unending storm. The descent down the stairs felt eternal, every step a painful reminder of the chaos forging behind us. Harrison's grip on my hand was firm, but the tremors running through him spoke volumes of the turmoil that swirled within. My heart echoed the urgent drumbeat of our flight, intertwined with threads of confusion and fear. We burst through the door at the bottom and out into the dimly lit alley, the cool air flooding my senses, contrasting sharply with the heat radiating from the chaos. Keep your head down, he whispered urgently, pulling me close. I could see his jaw clenched tight, his eyes darting around in search of imminent threats. With no concrete plan other than survival, the world beyond that door morphed into a landscape of uncertainty. What happened back there? The question clawed its way up my throat, desperate to be released, but fear dulled my instinct. Instead, I sucked in a breath, willing my voice to steady. Harrison, we need to talk about Olivia's. There's no time. He cut in, pulling me deeper into the shadows that draped the alleyway like a protective shroud. I'll explain everything once we're out of here. Just trust me. His appeal felt like a lifeline, yet doubt swirled within me, a fierce tempest that threatened to erode the trust one had clung to. The sharp echoes of shouting guards reverberated through the alley, firing my anxiety higher, catching me in a web of conflicting emotions. Could I continue to believe in him when everything felt like a cliff edge? A flicker of movement caught my eye as a figure stepped into the mouth of the alley. Harrison. The voice was hushed but urgent. Hurry. He urged, leading me toward the figure, a wiry silhouette with concern etched into their features. I felt a strange sense of familiarity as we approached, the knotted feeling in my stomach tightening even further. The newcomer darted forward, pulling out a sleek phone, and scanned the surroundings. They're tracking us, he uttered, hitting buttons with deft precision that betrayed his urgency. We need to move now. It's a matter of minutes before they pinpoint our location. Who are you? I asked, instinctively stepping closer to Harrison, my protector against the storm just outside. This is Ben, Harrison supplied tersely, glancing over at me. He's a friend. An ally in this mess. Ben gave a nod of affirmation that lacked the warmth of a true ally. Though Harrison's words were intended to reassure, apprehension twisted tighter around my heart. I felt like a pawn in a game whose rules remained hidden, no clearer than the shadows that shifted with me. Why are you on the run, Harrison? I pressed, my voice trembling, demanding answers that felt cruelly out of reach. What are you tangled in? He hesitated, guilt flickering in his eyes. You deserve to know, but not yet, he whispered, anguish lacing his tone. I swear, they'll tell you everything when it's safe. Just let me protect you. Ben shot him a look, one that screamed of mistrust, and I could see layers of unease flickering between the two. You're putting her life at risk by keeping this from her, he said pointedly, his voice low but piercing. That I can't lose her, Harrison murmured, almost to himself, but it shattered any protective wall around my heart. A spark of uncertainty filled the void left by his confession. It washed over me like a wave. Guarding secrets to protect Mia, was that simply a guise for his own fears? But before I could dig deeper into the rising tide of questions that unfurled within, Harrison pulled me further into the shadows, leading us down a side street. The opaque veins of fear beating through the city felt heavy beneath the flickering lights, illuminating threads of harsh reality in stark contrast to our fading past. Shouldn't we call the police? I stammered, my voice faltering against the backdrop of dread growing thicker around us. My heart sank at the prospect of relying on law enforcement. Unease coursed through my veins like ice. Not yet, Harrison replied with strained urgency, glancing back toward the alley we had left behind. They have us in their sights. We need to slip away. First, the fleeting moments of potential safety faded into muted shadows until a sudden crash echoed from our past. Men in dark suits, rage etched on their faces. They came spilling into view around the corner, their presence a potent harbinger of danger. Run. Harrison called out, jerking me away from hesitance and into motion, every instinct screaming at me to comply. Our feet hit the pavement hard, and I felt the world blur around me, but my heart raced with a conviction that went beyond fear. With every desperate stride, I pushed forward, my trust in him intertwining with the dread coiling in my stomach. As we turned sharply down another alley, a brief moment of hope flickered to life. Intercepted by a gentle pulse of compassion, we nearly collided with an elderly woman, her kind eyes widening as she recognized our desperate state. Quick, in here. She hissed, her voice barely above a whisper but with a warmth that uncoiled the tension in my chest. We darted into the small entrance of her shop, the doors slamming shut behind us. Once inside, the comforting scent of spices and herbs enveloped us, but it felt painfully insulated from the chaos outside. The woman's hands shook as she gestured for us to move deeper into the shop. They're searching for you, she warned, compassion lining her voice. But you don't have to be alone. Just when a flicker of safety seemed within reach, Harrison turned to me, a storm cloud brewing behind his gaze. I can't keep running, he muttered, despair choking his words. I need to face them. Are you insane? Ben breathed, panic washing over him. And put her in even more danger. Before I could voice my protest, a thunderous knock echoed from the door, shattering the stillness. My heart raced, and as the collective fear filled the shop, the fabric of hope that had begun to weave itself threatened to unravel before my eyes. Harrison, no. I gasped, searching desperately for a way to shield us from the impending storm. But the truth was, I knew none of us were truly safe. The chaotic threads of our lives tangled farther with every moment, each choice echoing louder, a dark tide threatening to drown us all in the secrets we carried. And beneath that cacophony of fear and uncertainty, a sobering realization dawned: someone close to Harrison had betrayed him, and within that betrayal lay answers to questions I hadn't even dared to ask. As the danger closed in, the weight of revelation loomed on the horizon, promising to strip away the last fragile layers of trust one had so desperately clung to. The knock on the door echoed through the shop like a death knell, a harbinger of the storm that was about to sweep us away. I pressed myself against the counter, heart racing, as I barely dared to breathe. The elderly woman clasped her hands tightly, glancing at us with wide eyes that communicated both fear and defiance. "Harrison," I breathed, my voice trembling as I dared to meet his gaze. "You can't go out there. This isn't just some game, these people mean business." That he wiped a hand across his forehead, frustration etching deeper lines into his expression. "I can't let them take me without knowing the truth first. If I'm gone, you think you're saving me by sacrificing yourself?" I interrupted, desperation cracking through my voice. "That's not how this works." Ben took a step closer, the tension radiating off him like a live wire. "We need a plan. Charging into the lion's den, isn't it? We can find a way out together." Harrison's jaw clenched, but guilt momentarily softened his resolve. "I need you to trust me," he said, his voice a steady plea that coursed through the chaos. "Trust that'll keep you safe." "Trust?" I echoed, feeling a knot of emotion wind itself tighter around my heart. "How can I trust you when I don't even know what we're hiding from? All I see is a web of lies and secrets that might cost us everything." Before he could respond, the knock grew more insistent, punctuated by voices outside. "We know you're in there. Open up." The elderly woman moved swiftly, her act of defiance surprising us all as she positioned herself in front of the door. "You won't take them?" she shouted, her voice fierce despite her age. "Alda, please," a deep voice pleaded from beyond the threshold. "You don't understand what you're getting into." "Perhaps not," she shot back, "but I know wrong from right, and this is wrong." As the voices rose, so did my panic. I leaned closer to Harrison. "What if they come in here?" I whispered, trembling. "They want is protecting us," he assured me, though his own confidence wavered. "No." Ben hissed, his eyes darting nervously toward the door. "This is insane. We're sitting ducks." Alda turned back to us, her kind gaze imbued with a fierce light. "When the odds are against you, sometimes you have to make bold choices. Trust me, I've had my share of battles." That I looked at Harrison, torn between the safety Alda offered and the uncertainty that clung to our fragile bond. "What if it's not enough?" I asked, my heart weighing heavy with the knowledge that the threat outside was closing in, but before he could answer, metal scraped against brick. The door protested as a shadowy figure shoved against it amidst Alda's fierce protests. "Get away from there." The door burst open. My heart dropped into an abyss of dread as three men flooded into the shop, faces set in grim determination. "Harrison Jacobs," one of them growled, his eyes narrowing. "You're coming with us, you won't take him." Alda yelled, stepping forward, her small frame defiant against the impending force. "Stand aside, old woman," the man warned, brushing her aside with a contemptful flick of his wrist. "This doesn't concern you." "I won't let you hurt him," Alda insisted, her voice unwavering as she squared her shoulders against the threat. Suddenly, in the whirlwind of chaos and tension, I felt something shift within me, a fleeting image of hope struggling against the tide. "Stop!" I shouted, my voice breaking through the fear. "Let him go." To everyone's surprise, all eyes turned toward me. "What are you doing?" Ben hissed, incredulous. "You can't just." "I won't let you take him," I repeated, trying to draw strength from the depths of my spirit. I walked forward, determined, standing at the precipice of a brink I'd never thought I would approach. "Harrison deserves to know the truth, and so do I." Harrison looked at me, eyes wide with a mix of surprise and horror. "No, don't." In one swift motion, I reached my hand toward the enigmatic man at the front, my chest pounding in defiance. "Tell me why you're really here." He hesitated, brow furrowing. "You don't understand." You're part of something bigger than yourself. This isn't a simple arrest. An uncomfortable silence settled into the shop, heavy with the weight of unspoken truths as the men exchanged glances, caught off guard by my sudden plunge into the fray. A moment passed, the tension thick like a noose. In that brief interlude, Alda whispered something to me, an unsure incantation of hope, urging the flames of my courage to burn brighter, but just as I felt myself teeter on this newly forged tightrope of bravery, Harrison stepped beside me, locking eyes with me fiercely. "If you value your life, you won't do this," he said low, the urgency of that truth laced with dread. As the hidden complexities of Harrison's world encroached upon our fragile sanctuary, the reality of betrayal sank its claws deeper. Were those men truly agents of the law, or harbingers of a dark past we barely knew? With one final push, the door exploded open wider still, overwhelming us with their commanding presence. Time felt suspended, every heartbeat echoing against the walls, threatening to fracture the delicate thread that connected us all, and as the storm surged around us, a terrible realization dawned: someone close to Harrison was orchestrating this chaos, a puppet master hidden within shadows we could not yet comprehend. Suddenly, trust seemed like a ticking bomb ready to detonate, urging us to confront the truth or risk losing ourselves forever. The echoes of chaos reverberated through the shop, twisting the tight knot of urgency in my chest into something sharper, something raw. "You're part of something bigger than yourself," the man had said, and though my instinct urged me to retreat, to pull back into the safety of ignorance, a flicker of determination ignited my resolve. I couldn't go back to sitting idly by, not after the truth had uncoiled itself in such a dangerous way. "Harrison," I breathed, the urgency forcing the syllables from my lips. "What is happening? Who are they?" He looked torn, his expression shrouded in shadows of fear and something deeper, something even more threatening. "It's not what you think. You have to trust me, trust you." I interrupted, the tremor in my voice lending weight to my words. "Trust has become a luxury we can't afford right now." Just then, Alda's trembling hand clasped my wrist, grounding me with her frail strength. "Don't let fear dictate your choices. Sometimes standing your ground is the bravest thing you can do." I swallowed hard, glancing at the men who had flooded our safe space. Their presence loomed like dark clouds ready to descend, and yet within that storm, I spotted glimmers of potential solidarity, a fraught alliance forming in the cracks of our misfortune. "Who are you really?" I pressed again, turning my gaze back to the apparent leader of the trio. His jaw clenched at my defiance, but there was hesitation behind his steely facade. "What do you want from Harrison?" "From us?" The man studied me, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw an emotion flit across his face, something akin to regret perhaps. "You wouldn't understand, try me," I dared, stepping closer, emboldened by the weight of Alda's grip. At that moment, Ben clutched my forearm, his eyes wide with alarm. "This is nuts. They could hurt you. They won't hesitate." But something stirred within me, a surge of indignation pushing through the doubts. "Then I have to know. Harrison deserves more than just blind submission to whatever fate these men bring." The leader's focus shifted toward Harrison, whose expressive eyes mirrored a tempest of conflicting emotions. I could see the storm brewing behind them: fear, guilt, resolve. He was caught between his past and the present I desperately fought for. "It's not safe for you," he said quietly, but the plea rang hollow. I sensed his internal struggle. "You're not my protector," I said softly, yet firmly, my gaze unflinching. "We protect each other. Just tell me the truth." Something within Harrison seemed to shatter, the facade of strength crumbling as he raised his hands in resignation. "Fine," he muttered, glancing briefly at the men who surrounded us as if seeking permission from them. "But if you don't understand, I'll take my chances." My heart thundered with courage bolstered by desperation. "What is it?" The leader's face hardened, but he couldn't obfuscate the flicker of something else behind his eyes, the hint of understanding. "The truth? It's complicated. Harrison is not just a kid in the wrong place, he's tangled in a legacy he can't escape, one connected to crime and corruption that reaches far beyond us." Alda's grip tightened as she glanced between us, expression a tableau of shock and understanding. The wall of protection she had built around us began to waver. "What do you mean?" I pressed, feeling the weight of knowledge pressing down on me like a physical force. What legacy? Harrison stepped forward, defiance rising in him again. It's my family father's dealings. I wanted nothing to do with it, but it seems they won't let me go that easily. They use fear to keep me in line, to ensure I don't stray too far from their plans. Damn, why stomach churned, the betrayal of familial ties twisting my insides. And they think dragging you back will work. Yes, he said, his voice heavy with regret. And they're not above using anyone against me. There was a silence thick as air, an unspoken understanding passing between us and sending chills down my spine. That we can't let them do this, Ben piped up, trying to grasp control of the situation. But the leader's eyes held a darkness that had no intention of backing down. No choice, he stated bluntly. It's either him or you, all of you. We're retrieving Harrison, and anyone who stands in our way will face consequences. A cold dagger pierced through my chest. Harrison, I whispered, panic lacing my voice. We can't let them dictate our lives. Yet just as the storm gained strength, the elderly woman stepped forward resolutely, a beacon amidst the spiraling darkness. The past doesn't own you, Harrison. They only have the power you relinquish. We stand together, united, together, I echoed, heart filling with that fragile hope, even as dread coiled tighter within me. And then, without warning, the shop's back door burst open, and another shadow cast itself across our horizon. A familiar face stepped through, stark against the tumult. Harrison's estranged brother, Caleb, an unexpected twist to this perilous tale. What have you done? He asked sharply, fierce worry etched across his features as his eyes darted from the men to Harrison, searching desperately for answers in a landscape turned hostile. The air vibrated with tension, and uncertainty hung thick around us, threatening to suffocate. I felt the world narrow, the stakes elevated with each heartbeat as every face turned toward Caleb, and the realization washed over me like ice. With his appearance, the whole game was about to change, but was it for better or worse? The shadows of betrayal had only begun to unfurl, and I was about to find out just how deep the chasms of loyalty could reach. The weight of Caleb's arrival rippled through the room like a tremor beneath our feet, shaking the foundations of everything I thought I understood. His presence was an anchor in the tempest of chaos that had engulfed us, yet it also brought a new form of tension that wove itself into our already frayed web of trust. What have you done? He repeated, eyes narrowing at Harrison, who stood resolute against the whirlwind of impending danger. He's not the enemy here, I interjected, my voice firm despite the swirling uncertainty. None of us are. They're manipulating you, using fear against us. Caleb's gaze shifted to me, and for a brief moment, I saw something flicker behind his hardened exterior, curiosity and caution intertwined. And you're sure of that? Because it doesn't seem he's been honest about his past. That I was protecting you. Harrison shot back, a simmering rage igniting within him. From this world, from our family's legacy. I didn't want to see you dragged back into it. Your protection comes at a cost, Harrison, Caleb replied, his voice frigid. You've been running away from this, but hiding doesn't erase the truth. It's only a matter of time before it catches up to you, but that's the point. I blurted out, desperation clawing at my throat. It's catching up now. If we don't stand together, we'll be swept away in the tide. The leader of the dark-suited men scoffed, standing tall amidst the brewing storm. You think unity will save you? How naive, he taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. Naive or brave, we'll find out together, I shot back, my courage rising like a phoenix from the ashes of fear. As those words left my mouth, something clicked, in affirmation that through the darkness, threadbare yet resilient, lay our strength. Just then, the elderly woman, Alda, stepped forward as if driven by instinct. He's right. You don't have to face this alone. Often, the very roots of darkness can be utilized to bring the light. Let this boy and his brother find common ground, even amidst betrayal. Caleb's deep sigh escaped him as he subdued the storm of emotions swirling in his heart. You're playing with fire, Harrison. Not just your life, but hers too. He gestured toward me, his voice steady, yet waves of concern coursed through him. Then let's extinguish that fire, Harrison replied, determination etched into his expression. steel in both voice and posture. He looked at Caleb, vulnerability mingling with resolve. "I can't do this without you. We are stronger together, even if our past taints us." The leader cleared his throat, the tension palpable as the room held its breath. "Enough of this charade. If you try to defy us, we won't hesitate to make an example of your little group here. This is your last chance. Come with us, Harrison, let's not waste time." But it was this ultimatum, laid bare before us, that ignited something deeper within an inferno that urged all of us to confront our truth. "No," I stated, trembling yet unyielding. "I refuse to stand by while they dictate our lives. We won't bow down to fear. We will confront whatever comes next together." A silence enveloped the room as my words ricocheted off the walls, bearing the weight of shared conviction. The vulnerabilities exposed, I felt a warmth begin to pool within the maelstrom of uncertainty. Harrison glanced at me, and in that fleeting moment, I saw recognition of shared purpose ignite in his eyes. "Then let's make our move," he declared, turning to face the trio, resolute. "We will not surrender. This legacy of fear ends now." The leader's eyes narrowed, frustration simmering beneath the surface. "You're making a grave mistake, Harrison, and you're mistaking my defiance for ignorance," Harrison shot back, a fierce fire igniting somewhere deep inside him, as though he was shedding the chains that had held him captive for far too long. "You think you can control the outcome?" The leader hissed. "You're merely pawns in this game." With every word, momentum shifted, and the environment turned electric, a testament to our choice to stand as allies in our vulnerability rather than adversaries in fear. In tandem, we recognized a shared truth beneath our chaos. Alda, emboldened by our rallying resolve, stepped even closer. "What power they wield is only as strong as the secrets we let bind us. Once we let our truths unfurl, we can break free from this game, rewrite our fates." And so, as if drawn by instinct, we stepped closer together, an unyielding front against the gathering storm. "I won't let your darkness define who I am," I declared, gazing at every individual standing shoulder to shoulder with me. For a split second, the room stood frozen, a tableau of bravery interwoven with fear, surprise reflected in the eyes of our would-be captors. The leader's expression seemed to fluctuate between annoyance and intrigue, as if wrestling with the very question of how betrayal could birth resilience. But just as the air thickened with anticipation, Caleb, emboldened by our shared resolve, took a step forward. "If there's an uprising, then unleash the truth," he said quietly, but with undeniable strength. "Let's show them we are more than our past. Let's embrace this moment." As a fire blazed in our collective spirits, time unfurled around us and propelled us forward into the unknown, a leap of faith, hand in hand. "Then let it be so," Harrison murmured, and as he took my hand in his heart pulsing in rhythm with mine, it felt like the dawn breaking, navigating through darkness toward the blinding light of revelation waiting just beyond the storm. And in that moment, with the surge of hope mingling with brimming fear, I whispered my silent vow: whatever lay ahead, I would face it together with him, come what may. The first step into our rebirth loomed before us, each heartbeat wrapping itself around the echo of that final truth. We were not the shadows left behind, we were the future rising from the ashes of our past. In that instant, against all odds, as we surged forward, I realized the greatest revolution lies not just in the battles we fight, but in the bonds we forge when we dare to relinquish our fear and embrace the truth. And, somehow, amidst the chaos, it felt like love was finally on our side.